the podcast SEO Blueprint 2025-2026 edition. You are welcome to the space where you listen and you learn, you live, and you earn as well. This is always going to be a great space. Actually, the Marketing Club has now grown. We are over 351.7K members in here, which is very exciting. So I'm very honored, blessed, and excited to be here with you. And you are definitely all welcome to be here today because I have something to share with you on the podcast SEO Blueprint. Because for those who are listening or trying to figure out what is this whole blueprint about, essentially it's to let you know that there's a way you can grow your business from your podcast. And let me say it this way: low effort, high impact. Low effort, high impact. And if you can do this for 90 days, you'll be so far ahead of your competition if you're able to knock out every episode per episode. We just had a client who just started her podcast episodes and she's been on YouTube. She just kicked off, a week or two ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And she wasn't anywhere at all. So we did the whole distribution yesterday. And right now, her podcast is in the UK. She's streaming in Denmark. She's streaming in different places. This is just low effort. Yesterday, 1 hour, low effort. Click here, click here, paste here, submit here, distribute here, click here, click here. It's like very easy things, but they're very incremental at the end of the day. So once you start seeing that, it starts to change because for you to have a podcast that is going to do well, your podcast has to show up everywhere. That's the first thing. Just like Walmart, Target, HEB, Trader Joe's, whatever you like, those chain restaurants, those chain stores, those chain groceries, those chain banks, those chains that you see, those franchises, those restaurants you see, those hotels you see, whatever you want to call them, that you see them the same way in different locations, those are access points. Those are delivery points. Those are access zones. So if I want to go to Kroger and I'm looking for the Kroger near me, that means I'm going to go to the Kroger that's like maybe 2 miles, 3 miles away from me, maybe even closer if there's one. I won't go to the one that's 7 miles away or 8 miles when I have one that's 2 to 3 miles away for the same thing. But somebody who's close to the one that's 7 miles away will go to that one before they come to yours. So what am I saying here? The more podcast directories you show up on, the more opportunities you give your podcast to flourish, to blossom, and to grow. That's the blueprint. I'm going to show you how it works based on what you're going to hear. But if you haven't done this, please do this. If your podcast is only on SoundCloud, if your podcast is only on Spotify, if it's only on Apple, if it's only on one platform, or let's say at least three platforms, because most times people put it on Apple, they put it on Spotify, and then maybe Listen Notes, but somewhere random. There are many platforms that you can put your actual podcast on. So many platforms. If you can kick off with at least 5 to 15, on the higher side 15, even better, because the more episodes that you publish, the more content you release. The more content you release, the more pages you publish, or the more pages that you have. So your podcast is going to be the anchor to where people are going to connect with you. Your podcast is like PR. If you show up on the news, that's PR because people want to learn from you. They want to see how you act, what you do, how you respond. They're watching those cues because they feel like once they're able to understand that, they're able to now connect with you if they like you or if they are connected to what you say or how you show up. So those are things to look out for as a podcast. And we're going to talk about the blueprint on how we can really extend that. So I really appreciate you for being here, Lakia, Susan, Angie, Suzanne. Thanks for being here. Jen Life, Angie, Taha, Gurav, Jasmine, Sonia. Thank you for being here. Good evening. Hope you're all well. And I'm excited that you're here. If you have a podcast, please let me know. Share it in the chat. Let us all, share, follow, connect, because sharing is caring. And for those who don't know, my podcast is called We Don't Play. You can go to we don't play podcast.com. And We Don't Play is a podcast that has grown from 196,000 out of 4.5 million to 51,000 out of 4.5 million in 30 days. In 30 days. So, what changed? What happened? I decided to go down this rabbit hole for the last 30 days because a lot of people are having podcasts. It's becoming a thing now. Just like in 2020, when everyone had a course, you have a course, you have a course, you have a course. Now it's a podcast. And I've seen the waves come and go. And this podcast wave is huge, especially for those who know what they're doing, because every episode you plant is a great seed. And let me say it this way: if you have 5 seeds, let's say you have 5 mango seeds, and you plant these 5 mango seeds in the ground and you water 3 out of 5, the other 2 that you didn't water are not going to become mango trees that you thought they would, right? Yes, they have potential to become mango trees, but they didn't because they were not given enough essentials to provide that next step. So why did that happen? Because their nutrients were not given. It's like a baby. You give the baby nutrients so that the baby can grow, nourish the baby so the baby can, stand on his own or her own. So it's the same thing with your podcast, with your website, with your episodes. When you have a podcast episode, your podcast episode is supposed to tell people a little bit more about you. It's like every time you have a new blog, a new book, a new video, a new podcast, they should know a little bit more about you. They should know a little bit more about your story, about how you do things. It should be a new way of connecting, because that new way of connecting is going to start building connections, right? And when you start having connections online, it's because you're creating an ambiance. People are wanting to be around you because they like what you're saying. And how do they like what you're saying? Because they can see what you're talking about. How can they see what you're talking about? Because they can read what you are giving as a title. Just like the room today, the podcast SEO Blueprint 2025-2026 edition. That's the blueprint. So if you want to be on voice search platforms, if you want to be on the internet in a way that online marketing, internet marketing is going to be your base line for growth, then digital marketing, email marketing, podcast marketing, all types of marketing, including your website with contacts, is going to be a great thing for your business, especially for your podcast. Because if you want a podcast to grow in 2025, 2026, you can't do it without a website. You can't do it without an email list. It's impossible. Because who are you really talking to when you have a new episode? When you launch a new podcast episode, the people who are going to listen to it first are your listeners. And the listeners are the people who have been listening. So if someone has been listening to you for years, that's because they've been a listener. So if they've been listening for those number of years, then those are the people who are going to hear it first. So when those people hear it first, they'll be like, oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know that was it. Okay. Okay. And then the more you keep giving them information that they didn't know about, the more you keep surprising them with information that they could know now, and they now know. Now you're the one that they're coming to because they trust you with information that you can provide easily. Like today, before coming onto this specific show, I published a podcast episode when we talked about Ethio here. And we talked about Ethio because we wanted to make sure that everybody knows exactly what Ethio is, right? And it's an AI visibility tool. And that's something that I wanted to cover when it comes to AI SEO. So somebody's going to see that and they'll be like, huh, what is that? I've never heard of that before. Now, that is something that is part of the ecosystem. So that's the same thing you can do as a business that can also put yourself out there. So if you have a brand, if you have a podcast, and you really want to take yourself out there, especially as a first time podcast host, your first episode should be an introduction about you, about what you're going to bring to the table. Like, I would say it this way, and this is what I did. If I go back in time to my podcast episodes, my first episode, August 13, I think it's 12 or 13, was somewhere around nighttime, 2019. I talked about the podcast and I said that this podcast is going to be a global podcast with international. I didn't have a guest. I didn't have a roster. I said this podcast is going to be an international podcast that's going to cover topics that vary between entertainment, music, lifestyle, relationships, business, entrepreneurship, marketing, AI. I was just talking about it and just speaking life to the podcast, just like, how God spoke life into the world in the beginning. So I just said, hey, this is going to be the podcast. This is exactly what it's going to be. Now, come 6 years later, this August, we are in 146 countries with over 500 episodes, and we're about to turn on season 11. And knowing that there are over 500 podcast episodes, it means there's a lot of information people are still listening to today. And there's still more they're going to listen to tomorrow. So the more they keep listening to these episodes, the more they're able to know about the episodes, about the show. So if you're listening to me and you're like, okay, I hear what you're saying, just listen to what I'm saying and then ask yourself the same question. Are you doing the same thing I'm doing? If yes, okay, how are you doing it? How often are you doing it? If you're not, what can I be doing differently or how can I do it better? So the goal is to improve your marketing, because when you have a podcast, your podcast is supposed to be the blueprint for your business. That's why for us, it's the same thing. Working Play Entertainment has that anchor with the podcast, because when somebody has a podcast, in any capacity you think of it, if I tell you, hey, I have a podcast, in your mind, the first thing you're going to think about will be like, oh, okay, you talk about something, or you focus on a topic, or you stand for something, or you're into just talking. It could be either of those things. And then you realize, oh, this is actually not just me talking. This is actually me informing. This is me helping. This is me advising. This is me asking questions. So it turns from a hobby to a serious business. And when you start looking at your podcast differently, especially with SEO in mind, everything changes. First rule of thumb: never, ever, 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 I mean, never, ever, please, I'm begging you, never, ever, ever start off your podcast episodes with season one, episode one. Please don't do that, because you're hurting yourself without even realizing it. Because it's going to be, let's say you're on, let me give you a random, listen notes. Let's say you're on listen notes and you have a podcast episode. It's going to be listennotes.com/ your podcast episode, your podcast show / the title of your episode. So the title of your episode is season one, episode one. It's going to be season -one episode -one, instead of it being what you're actually talking about in season one, episode one, which is, let's say you're talking about recipes and you're about to start a cooking show. Season one, episode one will now be, cooking show introduction, or meet, cooking host, the name. And then at the end, you now have episode one, or you have season one, episode one at the end, because it's called a long tail keyword. So it's ending at the very end of the word. So if you still keep that format, when someone is reading, they're thinking about that podcast episode last. But if they think about it first, you've already thrown them off because now they're like, oh, episode 296. Oh, man, 296. I got to listen to 1 through 295. That's what they're thinking. You may not think that's what they're thinking, but some people could think like that. I mean, if we have over 70,000 thoughts in a day, that's definitely one of the thoughts that someone can think about. It may not be a thought they'll dwell on, but it's a thought that could make a huge decision drift into their final decision making. So the goal is, can I address the problem first? And then can I help you after? Because if I can address the problem first, then in helping you, I've understood what you even need help for. So if you're coming to a podcast to listen to something, it's because your podcast is helping with something. If you talk about a topic that is actually helping someone and they're trying to understand, oh, AI SEO, they're trying to understand podcast SEO, trying to understand Pinterest SEO, trying to understand digital marketing, or even just search engine optimization in general, then SEO is going to be something that they're going to think about. And you have to also think about the number of times the word SEO or the phrase search engine optimization is said into your copy, into your podcast, into your script. So even when you're speaking as a podcast, the way you're going to be speaking is also going to help you in the way you're going to show up, right? That's going to definitely change. Welcome, Corinthian. It's going to change completely because when you have a keyword, that's what people are reading. If I look at a billboard and that billboard has a wrong word, but has the right image, I'm going to be thrown off because what I read is not what I'm seeing. So I want to make sure that what I'm seeing is the same thing as what I'm reading. So when I'm processing it, I'm not processing two things at the same time. That's where most people go wrong. Because when you have a podcast, you're supposed to tell people this is it. This is it. Like think about books. When you think about a book title, however strong that book you know of in your mind, if you can call a book right now, the way that book is written as a title is what makes you remember the title in the first place. So if I'm trying to ask you what episode did you like about, and they can't name the episode, that means you lost them from the beginning. But if they tell you, oh, it was about this, it's because it was plastered, it was filtered, it was put together so that someone can actually listen to that episode and then learn from that person. So the podcast SEO blueprint is when you show up online and you have a show, you have an episode, do research. Research, research, research. Because research is what's going to take your podcast from 0 to 100. It's going to take it from where people don't even see it at all to where people start actually looking for more episodes from you. That's how it starts. Because I've seen podcasts that have started from nothing and now in the top 10% globally because there's really a very unsaturated audience when it comes to hosts versus guests because there are way more guests than hosts that are needed, right? So imagine if every host had a guest, that's enough guests to run the whole track because out of 4.5 million podcasts in the world, about 16% of them are only active. So what's going on with the rest of them? Right? And that 16% is global. It's not just your industry or your category or your show, it's everybody, including you. So when you now take a percentage of the total percentage or of the sub percentage, and then you now ask yourself, in this category, because every podcast show has a category, you have a primary category and you have a secondary category. And just for your information, Apple made this update sometime back on this when it comes to subcategories. Before it just used to be flat out primary, but now they even have subcategories. So if you have a subcategory, it's even better because it puts you right in the mix. It's thinking about it like think about if you have a book, it's going to be book and then religious books or book nonfiction book. That's going to be the subcategory. So if it's a podcast, it could be health and wellness or health and fitness, and then The subcategory could be mental health, right? It could be something else too, sports. And then you're talking about volleyball, or you're talking about soccer or football, or you're talking about basketball. So when you start becoming very specific into how you show up online, your category is what's going to make you show up. When you think about the Grammy Awards and all these great award shows, the Oscars, they're winning based on their categories. So if you want to win on your podcast category, you have to dominate within your category of communication. That's where the community lies. So if your community is in the place where people are listening to you, then how well are you also positioned for them to listen to you? So that's where you have to think about your research, your podcast research, right? Listen to podcasts. Go to IVFM. That's IVY dot FM. When you go to IVFM, check it out. They got about 1 million podcasts out there. They've filtered it down to 1 million out of 4.5, telling you they only deal with the top percent. And they're only dealing with podcasts that are active in those industries. So you can go in there, search for any topic, just like you go on Google or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or where Pinterest, and search for something. You can go to IVFM as a podcast host and search for something. Even as a guest, you can search for something and then see what keywords are striking, so that when you give whoever you're showing up on their show as, and you're giving them your media kit, or you're giving them content that they can put on their website or their podcast show notes, you have everything ready for them, because you have all the links available, and you know that each link is going to lead them somewhere, and those links have text, and that text has context, and that context is keyworded, because that keyword has a value attached to it, right? Keywords have value. That's why people spend money on Google AdWords or YouTube, because people want to spend money on keywords. But imagine if the keywords that you would have spent money on are keywords that you're earning money from, because you have it on a podcast, because you have it on a website, because you have it in your email, because somebody can read it. That's where the the connection start from. So if you're thinking about the really big piece of this topic we're talking about today, podcast SEO blueprint involves these things. You need a domain, which is going to be your website for your podcast. It could be your podcast name, podcast.com, or it could be a completely different name entirely. When you have that domain, have a hosting, right? Have a hosting so that you can create articles from it. There are two ways you can go about it. One way is you can go to a website called On Podium, and I got to talk to the founder. He's actually he's from Lithuania, so shout out to him. And I got to talk to him because he reached out to me on a Sunday. This was a long time ago, and he listened to my podcast, found me on Apple, and he was like, "Hey, man, I like what you're doing. Would love to connect with you." And ever since then, we've been, connected all the way from Lithuania. I've never been to that country, but it's a beautiful place, and I know someone from there. And he has this amazing platform software he built for podcasters called On Podium, where it's very easy. It's $180 a year, and you just plug it in, connect your domain, and you have your podcast show on a website. And then now it's how you use the website based on what I talked about earlier today with the keywords and the placements, because you're using that podcast website as a holder, right? That's where you have links. But where you're sending links from is coming from your podcast host, which is free, which is also your podcasters for, I can call it Spotify for podcasters or Spotify for creators, or the root is anchor.fm. And if you go to those platforms, set it up, even buzzsprout.com, you can go to this platform, set it up, podbean.com, set up your podcast and run the show. And it's free, 100% free, 100% free. That's why I said this thing is a low effort, high impact. Because if you're able to know the keywords, how much they cost, where to place them, what you're saying and what you're doing, and then you're adding those keywords to your mix, you're actually speaking them. You know how they say, there's power in this the power of life and death is in the tongue. So as you speak life to yourself, as you speak life to your day, you're also speaking life to what you're saying. So I speak life into what I do. And that's why I receive it back the way I do, because I expect life back because I give life. So if I'm giving life, what does life entail? My time, my energy, my information, my research, my experience, because that's what I'm sharing with someone. Somebody reached out to me from nowhere, from absolutely nowhere. I didn't see this coming. And she scheduled, I woke up this morning with two calendar bookings. And then the second one, the first one is from a founder of a company that I'm going to be talking about, which is part SEO. It's a great platform that's where you're able to track analytics for your podcast. And that's what I use. The founder is in Berlin, Germany, and he connected with me. And the second one was very surprising because I got an email initially and she was like, "Hey, I love your show." This was when? We're in June. This was in May. And she sent me an email. That's the beauty of podcasting. You talk on podcasts, people send you emails. Like for me, these days, I'm not even surprised. I think the first few days that it was happening, I was like, whoa, is that really happening? Is this for real? Yeah, because you literally put your email out there and you say, hey, reach out to me, contact me. Because you're vocally saying it, you're verbally saying it, you're showing it to them explicitly, you're putting it to them eligibly. They're seeing it on the dashboard, they're seeing it on their webpage, they're seeing it on their screen. So why would they not click on it if they want to talk to you? When you talk to someone and you ask for someone's number, you get that response back. So she reached out to me through email and said, "Hey, I love your podcast. And I think a lot of people would love to, learn how they can use Pinterest as business owners." And I was like, yes, definitely. Podcast? Yeah, definitely come to the show. I wake up this morning and she's scheduled. This was at 5 a.m. this morning. So I'm like, okay, now we have a podcast show to record when I get to meet her. Now that's a big deal because people are listening to the show. So now if this podcast is at 50,000, 51,000 as of June 17th, 2025, right? At 6:35 p.m. Central Standard Time, that's where it's standing right now. And it's still taking up, 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 up. And I have a great feeling that by the end of this month, it's going to be ranking anywhere between 40,000 and 10,000 because it's going up that way. And because I've seen the blueprint and I've seen the goal, I'm like, okay, I want you to see the goal too. I don't want you to be stuck because being stuck is not fun at all, especially when you're stuck and you know you don't have to be stuck. Knowing that you can get out of that stuck mode and be on the other side, that can actually give you much better results. Because if you think about your business right now, long term, your goal is to create connections, is to build attraction models, is to learn how people can learn from you. So if we're going to, think about where we want to be tomorrow, then we have to start thinking about, okay, what are we going to create now? What is our major goal? Do we even have a goal in the first place? And if you have a goal, how are we using this goal to make sure that we can get the best thing out there? So as a business, your goal is to create content that would take to the next level a new way for you. Welcome, DJ Grid. Thanks for being here. You have to think about your connections online because every podcast episode that you drop is going to be one step closer to meeting your goal. Let me give you some pro tip news as well, just so that you can hear how important this is. Pro tip news. When you create a newsletter on LinkedIn, focus on the settings section. When you go to LinkedIn newsletter and you hit on that arrow and you see settings, there's a section in settings that allows you to add your SEO title and SEO meta description. Now, when you put in that that SEO title is between 50 to 60 characters. And here's the catch. And a lot of people don't know this. If you want to really take it to the next level, right, and you have a LinkedIn account, this is for anyone who does this professionally, create a podcast episode, publish it, because we're talking about brand leverage. We're talking about brand equity because you show up online. If you send a LinkedIn post, definitely. So you have a LinkedIn newsletter. It's the name of your podcast. It's the name of your episode. Now, the name of your episode has a link. Now, that episode has a keyword. That keyword is going to be in the title of your LinkedIn link. And the thing about LinkedIn newsletters is that once you create a link on LinkedIn newsletter, you can't recreate it. Like they literally gray it out, which is interesting because it's like a one-time scan. And if you missed it, you missed it. Meaning that if you create an article on LinkedIn or just have a newsletter on LinkedIn, then your LinkedIn title of the newsletter needs to be succinct and keyworded, that you've done your research well enough that when it turns into an actual URL, the keyword also exists there. Because I noticed that the URL is between 5 to 7 words. So I mean linkedin.com/, it could be pulse slash, then the name of your title. And that's going to be in a few number of characters. So if the keyword is at the last word of your title, you've missed the whole bus. But if it's at the beginning, that's why I said in the beginning, don't do season 1, episode 1, and that's going to be a LinkedIn post because you've missed everybody. Nobody knows season 1, episode 1. People know how to solve a problem or how to do this when you need this. That's what people are looking for. So when you capture that attention, then they'll know, okay, it's season 1. Okay, it's season 21. Okay, cool. Fine. Cool story. But now they know exactly where they came and where they're going with that information. So thinking about this long term starts off with asking yourself, okay, I have a podcast. I want to grow a show and I don't know what to do. I have to look at my different categories. So, what is the podcast SEO blueprint, right? The podcast SEO blueprint focuses on your domain. You need to have a domain, you need to have good hosting, have a good website, have a good cover art, right? Your cover art has to be really good. Anywhere from 1800 by 1800 and above is great, right? Use castfeedvalidator.com and check out and see if you can be validated in the first place. So when you now think about your podcast, you're thinking about the long-term things because you have a show name, right? When you have a show name, the name of your show on the podcast is a big deal. Why? Because if the name of your show is just your name, or not even your name, it could be your business name, it could be anything that you put out there. If that name is out there, that name has to be keyworded. Because when it's keyworded, that means that your keywords are showing up in the places that people are searching from the top. So if your name is this, next to your name should be that. What is that? The keyword that you found that is relevant to your show. So when you do that consistently, it's going to give you that longevity. So you have show name as the first thing. Then you have the show description, right? There's something funny that I found out, and I was telling a client this yesterday, and I was like, this is just, I'm just noticing some companies do some crazy things because I'm so deep into the technical. Some people don't even see it. And I tell my clients, hey, this is what we are finding out for you. And they're like, what? For example, this podcast, I didn't realize this until just recently that Spotify, and if you're listening to this, check this out. This is so sad, but I hope they make a change on this. The desktop version and the mobile version of Spotify for creators is different. What do I mean? When you go to the desktop version of the Spotify for creators section, what you realize is that the podcast description is supposed to give you up to 4,000 characters, but you only get 600 characters. So, what is that telling me? I'm like, huh? If I'm supposed to get 4,000 characters and I'm only getting 600 characters, I'm losing 6 times the amount of real estate that I could acquire on my podcast. Because when you think about a 4,000 word character podcast description, that's a museum. So, yeah, you can have 100 podcasts, but if that podcast description text is heavy on keywords, there's your anchor because everything you talk about after that is a cluster. Everything you talk about is a bonus because you already have the pillar. you have the momentum, you have the goal. So if someone reads that podcast description shows exactly what they have and what they are and what they are going to talk about. So when you talk about it like that, it's different. So I realized that the mobile version has 600 characters, 600 characters on the description section on the desktop version. On the mobile version, it's 4,000 characters. And in my mind, I was like, wait a minute over here. What's going on? Is this for real? I was a little shocked. I was like, this cannot be happening. Because in my mind, I was like, this is a huge mistake that most people make because your podcast description, just like on Pinterest too, your Pinterest board is has a description text box. That text box shouldn't be blank. When people send out emails, when you send out an email with an image, the image section has it's called accessibility for a reason. So you have to add all text there because these boxes that you're leaving blank are real estate spots that you're leaving blank. It's like money in plain sight that you can't see, but it's looking right at you. That's literally what it looks like. It's like here's a blueprint, but you don't use the blueprint. You use something else. And then you're trying to get to the same destination. It's not going to work. So I've noticed that it's a huge difference when you use your desktop version and when you also use your mobile version. So that's something, if you're using Spotify for creators, please check that out. I noticed that bug and I don't think it's something that they don't they talk about, but I discovered it and I was like, bingo, you know what? This is something that's going to take everybody to the next level because it starts off with how your business grows and what you actually want to tell people. So once you have the right keywords in there, that's how you're able to really build it out. So that blueprint starts off with your show name, have the right keywords, your podcast description, make sure that it's filled up as well. The next thing is your creator name. So there's a difference between a show name and a creator name, right? There's a big difference between a show name and a creator name. And in both names, you have to have your keywords in those places. If you don't, it's going to be hard for you to scale. I'm giving you the blueprint here. So if you listen to this podcast and you do exactly what I'm saying and you do your research and you find out more information about how you can do this, this is going to be a great booster for you and it's going to be a great gain because you're going to be doing less of the guessing and more of testing. Like if I'm really being honest, less guessing, more testing. Because if you're going to guess less, it means that you know exactly what you're trying to test. If you're trying to test drive a car, it's because you know what kind of car you're trying to test. It's that simple. You can't test something you don't know. So when you're testing, you're not guessing. You know exactly what you're trying to achieve. You may not get the result, but you're going to find out through the process. So the goal is when you have a show name, your show name is going to be the name of your show. It's going to be what people are going to remember your show for. It's going to be a pseudonym. Don't just call your podcast grassfields.com or grassfields podcast. There has to be a reason why it's called that. Okay, grassfields, maybe feeding cows with organic grass. It could be something like that. Very simple, straightforward. And okay, this podcast is specifically for this type of people or this set of people or this community of people. That's how you're able to segment it. But if I just say grass, you wouldn't even know where to start thinking from. So when you give people more context to your show name, yes, you can call your show name a beautiful name, but next to that name, call it something that people already know. Just like when you buy a book and you see the book has a completely different name, but when you read the context, you're like, oh, okay, it's dealing with emotional intelligence. Okay, that's a new name. Oh, I like that. Then you fall in love with the book. You fall in love with the content because now you're gaining information, you're gaining knowledge, you're actually applying it to your life and you're seeing the changes. That's why people love podcasts because people love to listen to binge worthy content. They love to listen to information that can actually help them. If you're looking for marketing trends to know about in 2025, this is a podcast to listen to because the We Don't Play podcast show allows you to really understand how you're able to really navigate the system and also understand where you are and where you could be. So it's not a guessing game anymore. It's something that you have to think about long term. So your show name has to be very keyworded, 100% keyworded. You also have to think about your creator name. Your creator name is your name. Some people don't want to use their name, they want to use their business name. Fine. You can use your business name, and that's what people will see. But that business name also has to match what's showing up on your website. So you can have your business name or your show name as your actual name or your pseudonym. If you have a nickname, you could use that. But also think about the keywords, because it says the creator name, right, is the host, creator, or organization name, as it should appear alongside the show name, because they're going to work hand in hand. So if somebody sees the name of your show and they see the author of your show, it's like somebody who is, you know, reading the name of your book and looking at the author of the book. That's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. It's an audiobook, but looking like a podcast, right? So that's exactly what it is. If you have like that whole Scooby-Doo moment, like who's really the person behind the mask, that's the kind of effect that you get. So the show name and the creator name have to match together, right? Then there's the category. The category is also very important. That category is something that for me, it changed everything. Because when you're ranking on a podcast, you're ranking for a reason, right? When somebody's ranking number one, number two, number three, number five, number 10, number 15, number 5,000, the reason why they're ranking for that position is because of the category they're in. So when you're looking at a podcast, you're not competing against 4.5 million other shows. You're competing against or competing with, because against sounds very negative, you're competing with the percentage or the total assumed percentage, or I can say the total unfiltered percentage of podcasters who are active and also scheduling shows like yours. That's your competition. So it's not the 4.5 million, it's the people in the category. So if you know in this category, we have 2 million shows. In this category, we have 500,000 shows. In this category, we have 15 million shows. Then you'll know exactly where your show is and how deep your ocean is. Because if you're in a place that is just 5,000 shows, you can easily rank on top easily. If it's 5 million shows, that's a different beast, because now you have to really think tactically. Who has the highest number of you know, podcast rankings and how many episodes do they have? Because as a podcast SEO blueprint, one thing to really know is the shortest time of your podcast and the longest time of your podcast. Think about it like an elastic rubber band, right? The longer it is, the longer it's going to last. That's why Joe Rogan is doing so well, because he has episodes that last for hours per episode. So when you think about the leverage on those numbers of episodes per hour, then you're able to really see that, okay, it's not just per episode as opposed to the word episode, but it's the actual time per episode that counts. So when you think about your podcast show, yes, start off with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, have interviews, go hard, make sure you go big. When you have your own show, you can split it up. There are 5 different types of styles, right? You can have a solo style where it's just you talking. You can talk all day. People will listen to you. And then you can start branding it out, which would be good. You have interview style where you can interview somebody. You can always mix one or two or three depending on how you want to do it. There's another option where you can do co-host. You can find somebody else to do it with. Then there's also roundtable where you can have more than just two of you. Have somebody else in the room, make it three, make it four. Or you can now have it as a theme podcast where you could just have themed shows and talk about things, whether it's sound bath or whether it is nature sounds or whether it is pet food or whether it is, space, whatever it is, you can talk about anything and create a theme out of it, like faceless content. So when you think about your podcast, you can now break it down into three subtopics or subsections. You can either have a trailer, a bonus, or a full episode. When you have a bonus, that bonus is going to be like bloopers, it could be announcements, it could be feedback, it could be behind the scenes, it could be anything, right? Director's cut, whatever you want it to be. It could even be sponsorships. You could use the bonus section for sponsorships. anything. There are no rules to podcasting. I'm just giving you ideas that I've done and ideas you could try. And then you have, from bonus, you have trailers. Trailers can talk about, hey, this is what's going to happen in the next episode. Check this out. People are going to listen to it. Or you can create a skit, right? If you have production skills, or if you want to do a whole production studio, you can have a whole thing going on and, turn that into a cinematic, skit. That way people can enjoy your skits and enjoy your trailers, which will make them want to listen to your show. Thank you, Zelda. I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. I know it's an international room and everyone is in everywhere in the world. So thank you for letting us know, and let us know where you're tapping in from too, as well, because it's always good to know. Each country, each place it's a great place to be. And I think it's, see, Munich. You see, there we go. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you, Zelda. Definitely will connect and let's stay in touch. Yes, much love. Have a wonderful night too. So, the podcast SEO world is a place where you can really grow. So, when you have your category, you know exactly what category you're in. How do you find out your category or what category is popular? Go to listennotes with two N's.com/stats, SAT. Sorry, I'm thinking about SATs. STATS. So that's listennotes.com/STATS. That's listennotes.com/stats. When you go to that page. That stat page is going to tell you everything about what you need to know. It even tells you the fake AI podcast that they've removed per month. It tells you everything. So you get to see the stats. You also get to see the categories. And when you see the categories, you get to know, okay, which category do I fall in? Or where does my podcast fall in which category? Am I even in the right category? Because you could be in the wrong category and you have the best podcast. It could just be the placement. You know how they say placement or positioning equals to sales? It's exactly the real definition of that is in your podcast category. So that's where you have to think about that too. The next one is language. Language is huge, right? If you put your language in English, that means it's going to be in English. If it's in Spanish, it's going to be in Spanish. And that's also going to put it in a different category. So, or I even can say a subcategory. So when you start deciding to know, okay, I have my keywords. I have 50 to 100 keywords. Let me not even say it like that. Let me say 150 to 100 characters for my title, close to 4,000 characters for my description. I know my categories. I know my language. And then the other thing too is whether it's explicit or not. Some people have explicit content. Some people don't have explicit content. If it's explicit, let people know. Don't let people find out when listening, because you're going to get a bad review or someone's going to sell on you. You don't want that to happen. Someone might be listening to it and kids might be listening. So protect your listeners by protecting yourself, right? If it's explicit, say it's explicit. If it's not, say it's not. Be clear, be transparent, be authentic, and it's just going to take you far. So that's something that thinking about will take you to the next level. And when you're able to create those things, and especially when you have your first episode, you end up having an RSS feed. The RSS feed is the how do I call it? It's the creme de la creme, because the RSS feed is where everything lies. If your RSS feed is broken, everything else is broken. It's like saying if your keys are broken, you can't get into your house. You can't walk into your door. You can't walk through your door. You can't even get into your car door if that key is broken. So that key is important, right? Just like with crypto, you have a secret key, or with API, there's a key. Those keys are those tokens are very important, because those alphanumeric characters say a lot about how it's going to authenticate with your brand. So when you have an RSS feed, which is really simple syndication, and you're syndicating your shows across different distribution platforms, that's how you're able to set it up. So if you now have a podcast show and every episode you drop has keywords, has text, has context, has links, you're able to have resources. Trust me, in a matter of time, you will be so great that your podcast will be growing its own wings. Because think about it, a podcast shelf life is anywhere between 24 hours to 3 years. And every time you republish an episode, it refreshes it another 24 hours to 3 years. You don't do that on Instagram. You can't do that on TikTok. You can't do that on Facebook because you don't own those platforms. But you own your website, you own the communities that you connect with. So it starts off with knowing exactly what you want to do, and that helps you to grow. So I got 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, please put in the chat or raise your hand. Or if you want to skip the line and just, get started and you feel like, okay, I'm ready to go, you can go to calendly.com/flavbeats. That's FLAEVBEATZ. That's FLAEVBEATZ. Calendly.com/flavebeats. And there you can book a complimentary SEO discovery call and let's talk about it, right? And if you need support, if you need help, if you need SEO services, if you need direction, let's talk about that. If you just need, hey, I just need an hour to pick your brain, let's talk about it. Let's see how that can go. Because at the end of the day, it's you that needs the help and it's you that needs the growth. I need to help you so that you can see it for yourself, so that somebody can see it through your eyes, because I can't help everyone. But if I can help you, you can for sure help somebody else that can help somebody else. So it's like a light a candle. If I can light you up, how can you light the next person up? And that's what I'm here to do, to help you light up your world. So feel free to connect with me if you're here, if you need a podcast, if you need to start one, if you haven't started one and you're thinking about one. Now is the right time to do it, because if you want to be on Alexa, Siri, ChatGPT, all these platforms, yeah, a podcast is definitely one of the places that would help you greatly, because you're not just dealing with text, you're dealing with conversation. Gone are the days when people are just searching for knowledge or information. People are searching for conversation, they're searching for inspiration, they're searching for connection. So when people use ChatGPT now, it's because they know that their AI is talking to them like they're being talked to, like their friend is talking to them. So it's becoming more personal and it's becoming more emotionally inclined. So if you have a podcast, that's going to help you spring faster and also have a much better catalyst, because you can have that no like trust factor within a longer span of attention as well, when you think about the retention model over time when you connect with people online. So don't just depend on Instagram, because if your account gets shut or Instagram takes your account down, what you're going to do when Instagram comes for you? So you have to think about how you can eliminate that cycle of doubt or fear or crazy unexpected scenarios, and then focus on how you can build intellectual property, and that way you can scale better and actually do better for the people that you're connecting with. So the podcast SEO Blueprint 2025-2026 edition has been brought to you by Favour Obasi-ike, and I'm so glad I was able to be here with you today. So with that said, thank you, Angie. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Lakia, Wendy, and Will. You've been amazing. Appreciate you all. Please feel free to connect with me. I'm always available here on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, web. Just reach out and I'll definitely connect with you too. And I hope you're able to learn something from today's room. And I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. I do have a room here tomorrow at 12 p.m. I'm going to be talking about Pinterest SEO hacks. Pinterest SEO hacks, drive traffic, leads, and sales. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. So I hope to see you there. Have a wonderful night. Take care. God bless you. And I'm going to see you guys in the Clubhouse streets very soon. Take care. We don't play for sure. We out. Peace out. Bye for now. Take care. And also drink your water too. Don't forget about that. Bye.